would think that there would be talk of nuance and subtlety when discussing the flavor of moonshine.
It's made out of corn, red wheat, and barley, so you're going to get a lot of corn, popcorn butteriness. The corn lends itself to sweetness, and so when it all comes together, for me, it often tastes like buttered toffee. It sometimes tastes like almonds.
This is moonshine, made not in a backwoods still, but by Corner Distillery in a storefront on Main Street in downtown Greenville, South Carolina.
Although it's 100 proof, it's going to have a little bit of bite, but it's very smooth going down, and it just warms you up right at the end.
In recent years, there has been much change throughout the universe of beer and spirits, with new flavors being developed and old tastes being rediscovered. Moonshine has definitely been involved.
There's a big moonshine resurgence going on right now. Of course, moonshine's been big for hundreds of years, but it's always sort of been taboo, and it's been sort of grandpa's craft, if you will. Well, today you've got a lot of young people getting into it.
This was all made possible in South Carolina just recently, as the state changed its laws with regard to how and where spirits could be distilled.
The microdistillery law was enacted to allow folks to get into the craft distillation industry for a much lower cost.
Craft distilling rules place limitations on the operations.
We can only produce 125,000 cases per year.
But provide some beneficial elements as well.
We can sell our product here out of the store. We can also sample the product behind the tasting bar. Of course, you see behind you we're producing it, and we work with the customer on a personal level, whereas a distillery typically packages up pallets of product, sends it out the door, and that's pretty much it.
Joe and his business partner, Richard Winger, entered the distilling world with no training and no schooling. They had to learn for themselves.
A lot of us staying up late reading documents and manuals, some of them written back in the 1800s, because we're trying to make a traditional product.
They also relied on the experience of other micro distillers. It's a group that doesn't look upon each other as competitors as much as allies in establishing the industry.
So we constantly strive to work with other micro distilleries and even microbreweries. We consider ourselves all part of the same family.
Along the way, there was even some input from moonshiners who have not bothered to take the steps to make what they are doing legal.
We've met a number of moonshiners here at the distillery. A lot of them wanted to come and see what made this legal and if they would be able to convert their operation over to a legal distillery.
One thing that Dark Corner has in common with traditional moonshiners is that it doesn't take much room to set up a still.
Anytime you're working with a copper pot still and making whiskey, you can do it on a footprint as small as 4 foot by 4 foot.
Making moonshine is a combination of art and science. Joe and Richard were quite adept at handling the science and perfectly willing to explore their artistic side.
He and I are both engineers and think like engineers, and we wanted to do something craft with our hands, sort of an artistic venture, if you will.
Getting the basics down is all about formulas and making proper calculations.
This was like a science project for Richard and I, and it's the coolest project you can ever imagine.
Injecting the desired flavor into the finished product is where an artistic touch is needed.
We basically look at the alcohol as it comes off the still over about a 12-hour period, and we have to cut it based on proof, temperature of the still, taste, and smell. And so you sort of have to train your palate to get used to doing that, and once you do, that's sort of the art of making whiskey, is making that accurate cut.
Dark Corner Distillery is a way for Joe and his business partner to get into the world of micro distilling, but there's more than that.
We're living out our dream and preserving history and heritage of the upcountry in the Dark Corner.
The history of the Dark Corner, which gives the distillery its name, is rich.
But we consider it the northeastern rugged mountain region of Greenville County, and it was actually a Unionist stronghold. And the way it got its name was back in 1832. John C. Calhoun said, "The light of nullification will never shine in that dark corner."
That refers to the region's stand against South Carolina in the state's battle for the ability to nullify federal law. It speaks to the Dark Corner's independence and gives Joe and Richard quite a story to sell right along with their moonshine.
I think that it is as much of the business as any other aspect of this business. You know, I don't know that we would be as successful as we are so far without the story we have.
The Dark Corner provides the history, but it also went a long way in helping the owners decide what they would distill and sell.
In South Carolina, we like to drink sweet tea, and in the Dark Corner, it's always been known they like to drink moonshine. So that was the traditional drink and has always been the traditional drink of the Dark Corner. The product we're selling is a green or a new make bourbon. It'll one day become a bourbon, but the neat thing about it, we've been selling a lot of it as a clear corn whiskey.
It worked out in a couple of ways, by providing a product that few people were making, and by allowing Joe and Richard to sell something almost immediately after setting up their still.
We're able to open our doors up almost day one and sell a product because it doesn't have to be aged.
Customers can buy the moonshine in small oak barrels and keep it for a while to end up with aged bourbon. They're doing the same thing here so that they can periodically have something to sell customers other than the moonshine.
A lot of the craze of a distiller being in downtown is going to wear off eventually, and people are going to look for other products, and we're definitely going to give that to them.
The Dark Corner Distillery is not even a year old yet, and it will not soon threaten the micro distiller limit of 125,000 cases a year.
We're probably doing 10 cases a week right now.
There are high hopes for the future though, and the expectation is that the moonshine will soon be available anywhere in South Carolina.
I think it's doing as well as we had thought. I think it could do a little bit better if we expanded our sales floor. We're in roughly 150 liquor stores today, and we hope to be in every liquor store in the state by the summer.